My name is Jason Irving. I'm a forager and a herbalist, and I run regular foraging courses in local London parks, teaching people about the plants that grow near them and how they can be used as food and also as medicine. I learned a lot of what I know working for my uncle's business down in Kent. I was a full-time forager, and we'd pick maybe 30 to 50 different plants any one time in the year, and that would change with the seasons, and our menu would always be changing. People have been rediscovering it, particularly in the last 10 to 20 years, and there's a lot more sharing going on and a lot more new recipes and new knowledge being created as people are rediscovering these ingredients that we'd used for thousands of years before. Partly people are more interested in where their food comes from. A lot of the restaurants we were supplying wanted to use more British produce, and so wild food was part of sort of extending their options. There's lots of high-end expensive restaurants and cocktail bars using wild food, so it's kind of a strange mix of being really high-end and expensive, but also just being a weed that you walk over all the time. And yeah, people want to know that for environmental reasons. There's an idea that local is more sustainable. They want to have more connection to their food. The first rule of foraging is don't eat anything if you don't know what it is. And if you are going to eat something, make sure you've identified it and you're 100% sure it's correct, and you're 100% sure the way you're eating it is safe. The other thing to think about is pollution, and that might be in the ground, so plants might absorb heavy metals, so particularly around old graveyards where they're used embalming fluids in the past, you want to avoid that. And some areas where they're industrial in the past, they might be absorbing the heavy metals. Also, sometimes parks will spray herbicides or pesticides, so you can ask them and find out where they're doing that. There's lots of dogs in parks, and you need to be aware of that, where you're picking, sort of height you're picking at, or where dogs have access to, or areas of water where rats are and that sort of thing. And the other thing to think about is sustainability. So don't take everything of a plant, but it really depends on which part of the plant you're picking and which type of plant it is. Sometimes people say there's a rule about how much you should take from an area, but a lot of the plants that I show people are weeds that have adapted over thousands of years to be grazed by animals, and a lot of them grow in lawns and meadows. So in the same way that when we pick the leaves and eat them, that's happening all the time anyway, with park wardens cutting the grass, and the plants have adapted to do that. Challenge for foraging is habitat loss. Since the 1930s, we've lost 80 to 90% of our wildflower meadows due to change in farming practices and building. Native woodland, a lot of that was lost in the 50s and 60s because it was all grown as plantations. There's been some backlash against foraging recently. We've seen fungi foraging bans in Epping Forest, and the Forestry Commission is trying to introduce that in the New Forest. But I think if people don't know what's there, they won't miss it when it's gone. So it actually makes people more aware. And I've even heard of people emailing their park warden to say they eat the food from the park, and the park warden stopped spraying herbicides because of that. And so I think that's one area where it can have a positive effect on biodiversity rather than having a negative impact.